This is the weBoost EQO. It is a cell phone signal booster for 3G, 4G, LTE, all that jazz for your smartphone, for your house. But it's bigger than your router. There's actually two of these in the box. This is called the EQO unit, and it provides an antenna and then an extender broadcaster transmitter box to extend your cell phone signal throughout your house or apartment, things like that. It is a pretty cool product, but it is super expensive. I believe it's about $300 to $400, but probably worth it if you live in a house that gets very poor cell signal within the house or apartment complex, things like that. And the setup is super easy, but it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to actually keep around, and I'll explain that in a moment. So in the box, which is a very, very big box, as you can see here, because like I said, it holds two of these units. You get it's a little confusing since it's backwards, but you get the receiver, which actually receives the normal 3G, 4G cell phone signal, data signal, and then you have the transmitter, which broadcasts the rest of it to the rest of your house or apartment and so on. You get a power cable, a coaxial cable for the connection, and that's about it. Some paperwork, things like that. Setup is incredibly simple. They explain it on just like 2 pages of the little pamphlet, as all you do is set this facing your outside window. So with the glossy part, which I'll get to the physical description in a moment, but the glossy part facing your outside window, wherever your best closest signal is, your strongest signal. And then you connect it to wall power, run the coaxial cable all the way to the secondary unit, which has to still have the glossy part facing the back of this. You can't have them pointing together or anything like that for whatever reason. Facing this, and run it 6 to 8 feet away from this for the rest of your house, and it extends the signal within your place. Very, very easy setup. And then once you power it on after connecting it, it'll show you either a red light because it's too close, or you have it facing the wrong way, or if you have it set up right, it's a green light, and that's it. You're good to go when you have a stronger signal. The issue comes in the actual capability to keep this running. Now I live in a small apartment, and apparently, which I found out when trying to set this up and test this, I actually have fairly good cell phone signal throughout my apartment. I did not think I did, but I'll explain that in a minute, but I already have fairly good cell phone signal in my apartment. I did not use the entire coaxial cable that came with this, like the entire length of it, and this spanned the entire length of my living room. From the window to the outside, or to the other wall here where my desk is and stuff like that. That's as far as I could get it. And that's where I ran it. First of all, again, this part, which is glossy plastic, don't know why it's got to be glossy plastic, especially when this is a matte rubbery finish. Glossy plastic is always bad. It's just going to show dust, tons of fingerprints and scratches, but you got to set this in a windowsill or something. Doesn't have a wall mount capability, doesn't have anything. You got to find a shelf for it, or build a shelf for it, or find some way to hang it or something, and you have to connect it to wall power, and the wall power cord is very, very small. But then you have the coaxial cable, which is pretty thin, but you have to run that all the way to another one of these big boxes, which means you have to have somewhere to route the cable. The other box, the transmitter box that gets the signal from this and rebroadcasts it, actually does have a wall mount and doesn't require power. So that's super convenient to place because it has a wall mount on the back. You can just put a screw in a wall and hang it, and you don't need to plug it into anything else, and it's good to go. This is a lot more complicated to store. It's a very weird decision in my opinion, and I don't understand why just the little screw wall mount couldn't have been placed here. So this meant that I had this just kind of sitting in the floor next to my window because I can't really put it in the windowsill. The coaxial cable just running along my floor up under my desk, with the transmitter unit just kind of up next to my desk, next to my wireless router, which wasn't ideal either. Not exactly the most convenient setup, however, I feel if you're doing this in a house in the first place, which is where I do think this will be most appropriate and where I'm most excited to use it myself, you're not going to have as much problem because there will be some room somewhere that it won't be as big of a deal to store. And if you have one part mounted high up on the wall, you can just run the coaxial cable along the wall or something. Not too bad. Now, I've always maintained about 2 to 3 bars of my 4G LTE signal throughout my apartment. Before I got this. I've always had that, but I've always had very spotty call quality. And I love to pace around the apartment as I'm talking on the phone, which means I end up dropping my call, or either, it cutting in and out or getting staticky a bunch and pissing whoever I'm talking to on the phone off because I can't help but walk to the middle of my apartment where I have not the best signal. But other than that, in my living room, it's a 1-bedroom apartment. So I have my living room, which is my studio office that I'm in now, has a big window. decent signal. Then my bedroom, which is the other half of the apartment basically, has a big old double patio door, big open area for signal. So I get a decent amount of signal. However, I did notice once I hooked this up, my call quality was so much better. Never dropped a call, never had any static interference, and I was talking to my uncle at like midnight one night about the DC superhero shows, and we were geeking out about the new shows and things like that. And he actually thanked me. He was like, whatever you did this time to make the call quality so good, way better than before. And I was just like, really? And I had forgot I even hooked this up. And I was just like, wow, okay. But I can't really quantify that for you. I went to run speed tests before, and with it unplugged and replugged, and you can't really tell the difference using like a normal speed test. I'm using open speed test, and you can't really tell the difference between the two speeds in terms of like data transfer speed. It's about the same. They still fluctuate a whole heck of a lot, and the signal bars aren't too drastically better. I do maintain an average of a bar stronger throughout the apartment, but again, it's a small apartment. And since it's a townhouse and not like a multi-story apartment building where there's a bunch of apartments around me, it's just they're all little slices next to each other. There's no better way for me to quantify how better it is in terms of data transfer, but in terms of call quality, it's actually been a whole lot better. So in this kind of small apartment scenario, it may not be the most effective, and for the price, it may not be worth your money immediately, but I am super stoked when we move into a house, hopefully in the fall, to set this up in a house and boost the house, because at my parents' house when I was living there, I had terrible time maintaining call quality anywhere except like on the front porch or the back deck. So I'm super excited for that. So this has been my review. I almost knocked it over of the weBoost EQO cell phone signal booster. Product link will be in the description below. Definitely a cool little product, and definitely to consider if you actually have cell phone quality issues within your home. If you don't, yes, it's going to cost a lot of money for something you don't need, but if you do, it's definitely worth it in my opinion. My name has been Adam EposVox. Be sure to smash the like button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a comment down below if you need something like this in your home, and otherwise, I will catch you in the next one.